A week ago, Christopher Michael Benoit, a Canadian professional wrestler who performed in ECW Extreme Championship Wrestling, WCW World Championship Wrestling and WWE World Wrestling Entertainment, committed suicide after murdering his wife and their 7-year-old son Daniel in their Georgia home in America. The investigations are 100%. The confirmation is out. Hold on. Is there evidence there? Is there evidence beyond reasonable doubt? Just hold on and think through the facts as we know them. Think. Is this Chris Benoit as we know him? Is this what people think Chris Benoit is capable of? Is it that he became a sudden monster over a 3-day period? Hold on. I'm asking you to hold on, not to overreact, not to call him a murderer, not to call him and say, may he burn in hell, not to say, I loved him, I wish he hadn't done it, not to say, I just don't believe he didn't do it because I loved him, but to look at the facts, look at the case, look at what we know and what we don't know. Think of what else might have happened. Think. Before we actually go into this in some detail, which I'm going to do now, over a series of different transmissions, I'm going to ask you to listen to what people said, what people have said who knew him over 15, 20 years or even more. Think about what they're saying. I'm not going to pass a comment on it, just let them speak for themselves and you think about it. They're going to talk about Chris Benoit as they know him. Let's listen. First, let's listen to Bret Hart.
Everyone that knew Chris didn't know him like this. He was somebody that was a really good, loving man that was respected by everybody that knew him. This was not something, I never saw him ever lose his temper, and I never saw any kind of a violent nature in Chris at all. He was always a caring, really, good guy, and I know that he, through all the times that I knew him, he loved his family, and I don't know where this came from. I don't know how it happened.
Now let's listen to Chris Jericho, Y2J. What does he say?
That's what makes it so difficult, is that you can't make sense of it, because the guy that I knew, that I loved, was such a loving, polite, good, friendly, heartfelt, genuine man. Probably the most honest, heartfelt man I've ever met. And like I said, someone that I looked up to and always kind of emulated as kind of, like I said, as an inspiration. And that's why it is so hard to try and come up with some semblance or shred of reason.
So tell me, did he love his son?
This was a very loving man, talked about his kids constantly, loved his children, not just, he loved his children, he loved his children. He would fly home for hours just to see them for a few hours in between shows. And that's why it's so hard, not just for me and his family and all the people he influenced within the business, but for the millions of fans that he entertained for 22 years worldwide. We're all searching for answers.
Now listen to what Road Warrior Animal says about him and how he loved his kids.
I've seen Chris with his son Daniel. Mm-hmm. Chris loved that little boy. There's something else.
Right, Road Warrior Animal. How about roid rage? People say it's roid rage. You've seen roid rage? Is it like this? Is roid rage like this over 3 days, 2.5 to 3 days?
I've seen roid rage, and to me, I think it's a crock what O'Reilly's doing and everybody else trying to get these ratings on and calling it roid rage and everything else. I've never seen a 48-hour roid rage. Most roid rages I've seen have been 5 minutes, and they're blown. Oh, I'm sorry for blowing up, and that's it. And when something like that happens, it's definitely overuse where your blood pressure's up and you're blowing a cork.
So, Road Warrior Animal, you know Benoit. You've known him for years. Tell me, these text messages. People say he sent these text messages. Are these typical of Benoit?
My brother is vice president of operations for the WWE, my brother John. And once I heard of this horrific situation, I called him and said, man, what's going on? He said, man, all that I know is that some of the guys and my brother himself had got text messages saying, this is my new address. The dogs are out on the deck. The side garage door is open. Just plain one-liners like that didn't make any sense and were so unlike Chris Benoit. Chris Benoit, you understand, in the ring was the most detailed guy and the ultimate professional in his life. Every time we saw his family around, he was phenomenal dad. This just totally blows me away.
Right, it's been a week now since Benoit died, together with his wife and child. The overall assumption is that Benoit did it. While a few people have given some fairly weak reasons as to why he may not have, most people, very emotional because they've seen that a child has died, and that his wife has died, and that because the police have come out and explained, well, we think that's what happened, have basically immediately assumed that Benoit did it. I want to look at some possible reasons why he may not have done it. I've thought through this for a week. I've compiled a series of detailed information that matches the diary of the timeline, and I want you to think about it. Think objectively. Don't make a decision. Cut out your preconceptions. Think about it. This is a detailed analysis, and I hope I get some sensible comments in return. The key thing is to find the truth. If he killed his wife and child, he's at fault. Whether he goes to hell or whether he doesn't is immaterial. It's an awful, horrendous thing that he did. But hold on. Did he? In this analysis, I'm going to look through many aspects. It's going to cover more than one video. I'm not going to introduce lots of images of him flying through the ring or coming into the ring. I'm going to ask you to just calmly think about what I'm going to say. I'm going to answer a series of questions that until now have not been answered. At least I'm going to try. The first question is, why would Benoit want to kill his son, who it is almost unanimously acknowledged loved? He loved that son, according to Chris Jericho, according to Bret Hart, according to anybody who knew him more than 10, 15 or 20 years. He loved that son enough to come back multiple times, just to come back, to fly back to see him for an hour or two. Why? Secondly, I'm going to answer this question. Why would he want to kill his family and himself just before a world title match at Vengeance for the ECW belt? One of the only world title belts that had eluded him to date. I'm going to answer the question, how could empty beer cans, we're looking at 10, been found in Benoit's home, and even wine near Benoit's body, if it is well known that he was relatively disinterested in alcohol? Why did Chris Benoit send multiple copies of the same SMS? Why did Benoit appear groggy and tired when he spoke to co-workers at the WWE? How does this sudden and unexpected tragedy fit in with Benoit, seeming happy and optimistic according to people he met only days before, and in a photograph taken only hours before? Why is he discovered hanging? Why is his wife discovered tied up? And how about the wounds to the son? Are these the wounds a wrestler would make? How are they relevant? Why does Benoit send messages to the WWE telling him that he'll be in the next WWE event? Why does Benoit tell a WWE co-worker that his wife has to go to hospital? And very importantly, why is there such a long gap between his wife, his son, and himself dying? It happened between Friday and possibly Sunday, 3 days. And why did the three die in that order? I'm going to try to analyze this, not academically and not in a fantastical way, but I'm going to try to give you an explanation. If I'm correct, when the toxicology report comes out, there will be no alcohol in Benoit's body, despite the empty beer cans in the home and the half-drunk bottle of wine. There'll be no evidence of a recent intake of steroids, but there may be some evidence of sedation.